If you're Sidney McLaughlin, Grant Holloway, Femke Bol, Julian Alfred, it's easy like Sunday morning. For Shericka Jackson, heartbreak. The two-time 200-meter world champion, a woman that we've seen gone 21 fours on numerous occasions, unfortunately did not start this morning for the women's 200 meters. And it puts an end to all the speculation that we had about her fitness. And when we saw her pull up just before these Olympics, from that look, most of us would have said it doesn't look good. You never want to see that happen to an athlete, especially an athlete that is at the top of the sport that millions of people around the world want to see. And it must be heartbreaking for Shericka Jackson. It must be heartbreaking for all the fans around the world, and particularly those who are ardent supporters of Jamaica. Again, we wish her the very best and hope that Shericka can get back to full fitness, and that we'll definitely maybe see her later on the season, if not, certainly fit and ready to defend her 200-meter title at the Tokyo World Championships next year. And given her age, it's a strong possibility if things go well that she should be able to continue and get to another Olympic Games. But heartbreak for Jackson. Never want to see it. And for Jamaica in general, two of the big three that were at this Olympic Games in Paris, just not going their way. Tough night last night for Shelley and Fraser Price. Did not start for the semifinal. And certainly a very tough morning for Shericka Jackson. And I anticipate a lot of people had held their breath to see whether or not she would have shown up. And yeah, it also spells what I would consider significant trouble for the Jamaicans when it comes to the relay, because we're not sure how that will work. A number of the athletes that they'll have to put in are also running the 200 meters probably now. And we'll wait and see. But it's one of those things. And I want to thank you, everyone, for joining me this morning. As usual, this is the Sports Talk Tech morning recap of the morning session. Thank you for coming on the channel. Smash that like button. Sharon, what's going on? Good morning. The Olympic Games might be the best thing for cricket. Yeah, next time in Los Angeles, we should see some cricket there for sure. In 2028. Yeah, so that's the big thing there. I want to go through some of the stuff that we saw this morning, get your thoughts on what you thought were some good performances at this morning's morning session here. A number of things happening in terms of qualification. We had steeplechase, we had hammer throw qualifications, obviously the women's 200 meters, long jump for men, 110 hurdles, and the 400-meter hurdles. Let's start with the 400-meter hurdles. It's probably easiest. It's the last thing that I saw. I thought Femke, obviously, and Sidney McLaughlin, different class. McLaughlin running a 53.60. I don't even think they woke up yet. At least she woke up as yet. She just strolled to a 53.60. Nothing out of the ordinary for her. Getting through really quickly into the next round unscathed, if you ask me. Heat number 4 was interesting too. Anna Cockrell, who I think is on course to potentially get on the medal podium. There are a number of women in this women's 400 meters that could find a bronze medal, because as we've established that the gold medal and silver medal spots are virtually taken between McLaughlin and Femke Bol. Anna Cockrell, for me, is one of these athletes that could potentially find their way on the podium. along the likes of Rochelle Clayton from Jamaica, Jasmine Jones, and Cocker looked good, 53.91. Genevieve Russell and Nielsen also occupying the bronze, the third automatic spot for Russell there, and Nielsen from Great Britain getting silver. I thought Genevieve looked okay. Then I don't know if she dropped off a little bit in the home stretch. It would be interesting to hear her thoughts on that. I haven't seen an interview if she basically wanted to just take it easy because she knew she was in an automatic spot there. But that Russell, that Cockerell looking good for me. I like Anna Cockerell a lot. I think she'll be great. Femke, what can we say about Femke Bowl coming into this championships? Joining Sydney McLaughlin as the only two women to ever go sub 51 over the women's 400-meter hurdles. It's going to be fireworks when we get to that final. Very strong prospects for given with good conditions, or even without good conditions. You anticipate that it might be a world record run there. Last night we saw Femke Bol suiting up for the Netherlands, doing her duty there on the ankle leg of the mixed 4x4. And for whatever it's worth, whatever your persuasion, if you don't like the mixed 4x4, it was a special race last night. And you didn't give enough lead. If you don't give a 15-meter, 20-meter lead on Femke, I'm sorry, to go sub 48 on the leg, 47 on that leg from Femke last night was one of the greatest things you'll see in all of track and field. So if you haven't watched it, if you haven't studied it, watch it again. Amazing performance. She got up this morning and it was a stroll for her as well. 53.38 in her race. Didn't even break sweat. I saw an interview just now of her, and she was okay, and she's talking about having to run, and she's in great fitness, and that's true. We've seen Femke, her background training over the last few years have been next to none, and she has the capacity. She's very young still, and I only anticipate her doing some big stuff. Cheyenne Salmon for Jamaica also securing a second place in that heat, and yeah, so good stuff there. A lot of these athletes will obviously go back to their repechage round if you didn't qualify, so it's not all over. Jasmine Jones, I thought, also looking good too. One of the athletes that could potentially find their way as well on the podium. I like to see that. So yeah, nothing out of the mix, and obviously in heat number one, I thought Rochelle Clayton looked really smooth. Worked a little bit, but then backed off. Good morning run for her as well, and qualifying into the semifinal stage. So I anticipate her, Cockrell, Jones, as the biggest contenders for that bronze medal. And we've seen Clayton over the years, who is a big fighter, and she's gotten medals at the World Championships. And I expect that there will be something really special there. I anticipate that you'll get two women potentially going sub 51 again in the 400-meter hurdles. And then I suspect it will take a 52 low from someone to get onto that bronze medal podium. You have to be in that kind of shape. Again, want to thank everybody for joining me. I'll get into some of your comments here. There are some comments that came in before. I don't know if these people are still on the live, but again, smash that like button if you're on the live. Thank you for joining me. Jeffers was saying Shelley does run the 200, but opted out of. Okay, I think you're responding to somebody else there. Yeah, Fraser Price didn't run the 200 meters. As everybody know, Fraser Price had one of those seasons where they were battling injury to run against time to even show up at the Jamaican National Championships. And even after that, there was some kind of concern about whether or not she would have been in the best of health to get to the Olympic Games. And she pulled out of an event before the Olympic Games, and then we saw her run that first round there, and she looked really decent, and then didn't show up after that, and it's tough. The B. Meredith family says 4x4 mix was the best thing since sliced bread. Thanks for saying that. I like it. A lot of people don't. It's been one of those things in the sport. They've worked on it. I didn't like it when it just came in because I felt it was chaotic, in the sense that you could put anybody on any leg. Now they've streamlined it where the men run against the men and the women against the women, and we all have it's an easier kind of look on the eye. The one challenge for the 4x4 mixed is that sometimes you won't get athletes who are at the very best participating because they're focusing on their individual events. So a number of the Americans won't show up. We've also saw, Jamaicans didn't do it too. You can get like a Nikisha Price on the leg or so. What would have happened if you had put one of the flat 400-meter runners for the USA or even a Sydney McLaughlin on that leg? Didn't happen. And so there's that. But it's also a good type of innovation in the sport that it creates another buzz. It allows some other countries to be a little bit more strategic, and they could actually earn medals. I think last night All in the Game pointed this out too on the live, where if you look at at major championships, it's usually the United States who will win a 4x4. The depth is just so great that they can always put teams together. Once in a blue moon, they may not win an Olympic title or a world championship title, but it's almost a foregone conclusion that they will assemble rather a team of 4 and much more than that in terms of how they can even run the rounds. And so it gives people an opportunity to also get on the podium, and it makes it a bit more exciting for the sport. So I do like it. John is saying they are doing everything to get our Jamaican athletes for some people to win gold. Could you explain that a little bit more, John? I'm not sure if I'm fully following what you're saying here. Shauna K is asking, which race running today? So this morning we had in the morning session heats of the 400-meter hurdles, 110-meter hurdles, and I get to that, especially that race with Hansa Parchment. That was an interesting one. Hammer qualification, long jump, which wasn't good. I think only 2 or 3 people got the automatic qualifying spot to get into the final. Everybody else had a small queue. There were 200-meter heats this morning and steeplechase. This evening, obviously, is going to be a cracker. The evening session starts around a little bit after 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you get the 400-meter men into action. So that should be good. You'll get to see Matthew Hudson-Smith. You'll see Quincy Hall. You'll see, hopefully, what kind of shape Stephen Gardner is in, Mike Norman. You can name all those guys. And then also final of the women's high jump. The qualifications for the women's high jump was a little bit iffy a couple of days ago, and I don't know if we'll see Topic. She got injured there, but we anticipate that Yaroslava Manuchik should win this. And there's also semifinals right after that of the men's 100 meters, and it's going to be a cracker there. Kishane Thompson, Noah Lyles, Kenny Bednarak, Oblique Seville, Omanyala, Letsili Tobogo. I'm probably missing people there. Fred Curley, even the defending champion Marcel Jacobs. There's a number of people there. Akeem Blake, all sort of people. Akini Simbini, I want to mention them too. So that will be that. And then there's also a men's final for Hammer. And you'll get some 800-meter semifinal going on as well. And it ends obviously with if you want to scroll up, the 100-meter final. So that is a big thing on course today. I think there's also semifinals for men's 1500 meters. So I believe Josh Kerr and Jakob Ingebrigtsen and all those guys are. So it will be there. Erwin is saying Shericka did not. Yeah, she didn't. It was tough. It was she was in the warm-up room, warm-up track this morning. They were going through the paces, and Jackson didn't come out. So clearly, what happened to her, the injury she sustained, is preventing her from participating. We all know the story coming in. They mentioned that it was a cramp. I don't know. Sometimes cramps can put you out for a little bit in terms of your ability to train. However, it could be worse than a cramp, and they weren't, you don't know, but they don't have to share that information. When we saw it the first time, we could have ruled out a grade 3 hamstring tear because she would have not gotten up off the track. And then you look at that, and it could be anything from a cramp up to grade 2 potentially. I mean, grade 2 might have been in much more pain, but a grade 1, sometimes it's a scan. When they do these scans and MRI, they do all of that stuff. It reveals some minor stuff that will say, okay, you might be out for a few weeks up to much longer. So, yeah, Shericka hasn't been having the season that she wanted to. It's clear. I also think they've kept the status of her fitness close to heart, and that's also part of sport. You don't want to divulge all the information. And I honestly think they did their best to try and get her to come to this Olympic Games and perform. I suspect they worked as hard as they can, medical wise, and so on, in order to give her every opportunity to compete. And hence I suspect the late pullout of the 100 meters, because the pullout was not early, and yeah, and then she was still listed for the 200 meters, and then now she didn't show up. So let's hope that she gets back to the best of health and continue what is already a legendary career, and one that I'm sure she's massively disappointed in. If we go back to Tokyo, she didn't get a chance to leave the first round of the 200 meters on account of what can only be considered a massive error on her part. And now since Tokyo, she's been giving you probably the best type of 200-meter seasons you'll ever see in your life. And then to not be able to come and deliver on this stage is just tough. But we'll see. Some more comments here. Erwin is saying it's very tough for my Caribbean neighbors of Jamaica. Yeah, it is. But, it's one of those things is, look, yesterday was unprecedented in a long time, or not necessarily unprecedented, but it was it was not since the Seoul Olympics that a Jamaican didn't make the podium for women in the 100 meters. And so, and I have to say, in my lifetime, in terms of memory, that's I remember 88, but, I can't remember 84. I was too young for that. However, you've always seen a woman on the podium. 92, 96. And it moves from just being on the podium, from silver medals, to eventually having a gold medal and just dominating the 100 meters since 2008. That's 4 Olympics in a row that Jamaica has won the 100-meter title. It happens. It really happens. And again, I want to point out, and thank you everyone for coming in. I'll get to your comments. You must remember that if you look at the Jamaican crop of women, they are a bunch of women coming through that at some point that will be good and potentially great. The likes of a Brianna Liston, Alana Reid, super talented individuals there. The Clayton twins. I mean, they're 19. The twins are 19, right? So, and they're with a coach that you would chop your hand off to coach you, especially when you're young, in the form of Stephen Francis. So they'll bounce back, and I'm sure Shericka will come back. It's one of those things. We can't say for sure what Fraser Price has done, but Fraser Price has given more to the sport and to the country of Jamaica than most will ever do, and so she gets to ride off in the sunset if she so desires. And if she wants to continue next year in Tokyo, then she'll have a say in that. But you have to, sometimes the transition is not always easy. The thing I will say is that the women have never given you a moment to say there's been a lull. You look at the post Usain Bolt, Ross, Alpha Paul, those guys, if you want to bring up the Jamaican context, and there was a dip there, right? And it's only now that you see a few guys now really capable of winning it all and hopefully getting on a medal podium at the very least. So I wouldn't worry yet when it comes to that. Let me get back to some of the comments here. I'm not sure what I don't know what are you saying you lost your predictions didn't go well? I don't know. Uh, Roseanne is saying, I got to tell you, it's Julian's year. Shericka cannot run with her. No, it was Julian's night last night. I mean, yeah, uh, it was Julian's night. Oh, she won with a country mile. Make no mistake, there's no one who was catching her last night. Any kind of second theories behind that and who didn't get a good start, those are nonsense. Alfred won that, and she wasn't about to lose it. And I think she's running with a free spirit right now. She doesn't like the 200. That's well documented. But Julian has a real opportunity of not only medaling, but potentially she could win it. I like what I saw this morning from Gabby Thomas, looking really smooth. I think Gabby should be the favorite, given what we know she's capable of. But with no Jackson, uh, Julian should be on that podium. You know, I with what medal we'll get to see. Speaking of that, she ran the first. Was it the first heat this morning? Run it a little bit harder than I would have thought she would have. Julian, that is. I suspect the plan from the coach was to run the turn hard, come off in front, and then relax. She probably could have checked a little bit earlier and see that no one was with her, but eventually she took a foot off the gas and she comfortably won that. Yeah, so Julian is there. Michael Young is saying the only problem in her coming on fit denied others the opportunity to come. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I get what you're saying there. The question is, at what point did they realize that they weren't planning to do the 100 meters? Because you've heard all the conversations from, I guess, the Jamaican officials. What's his name? Ludlow Watts, I think he's the guy who's doing all the talking. I think there was a journalist who asked him about if the notice came late, if I'm being diplomatic. And I think he was indicating in a sense that it could have come a little bit earlier. But I don't know at what point they really say, let's scratch this. You know, that's a question that her team will have to say. I think they scratched enough time though within the league. They pulled out within. Let's put it this way: they pulled out within the framework that would have allowed someone else to get the spot. And in that case, Sasha Lee Forbes did get the spot. And I think she ran well enough to at least do the first round. I suspect if she knew, I don't know if she knew a few days before. I don't know if it would have mattered in the end. But she did get a chance to step on the Olympic track. It's clear they wanted her to run the 200. She was in the warm up. It just didn't work. Yeah. All in the game is saying so. Jamaica's women's 4x1 without Shelly and Shericka? Question mark. Oh boy. Yeah, that is a tough one now. And now that you think about it, you go back to the comments Stephen Francis was saying when he said they may not have a team. I don't know, right? Like, it's a challenge. How do they structure that team? Obviously, Kemba Nelson's there now. Luckily, she wasn't far away. But I don't know where the mental space is for Kemba, because we saw it in when she tweeted or used social media when she said she's no longer needed and so on. Again, it goes back to, and I said it before, one has to account for a number of these things. There is clearly some form of a dynamic that's not one, what do you call it, amicable relation between the Jamaica Olympic Association and the J3As, who were in charge of the athletics administration. I can't explain that. Everybody I talk to, all the journalists who cover this, they don't even want to unpack it. They basically says it's nonsense. They're like, it's just ridiculous. And the stuff they write about sometimes is just they have to do it in that way, but they just can't understand this. Again, we've been saying this on the channel before. It's known, it's wide open. This Olympics, the relay pool is smaller. The people who are allowed in the village, they've curtailed that. In fact, some athletes aren't staying in the village for a number of reasons, from they don't like the conditions or whatever. It's public information. We knew France were doing this on a budget. They wanted to go down to say that it's the cheapest Olympics they could pull off. Only 2 new facilities were built. A lot of repurposing of stuff, a lot of stuff in the middle of, Place de l'Encore, there, Eiffel Tower Stadium. Those are pop-up stuff. They're trying to say we can do this the right way and make it sustainable. And I'm not against any of those things, because Olympics cost a lot of money, and the politics around Olympics and the finances around it is oftentimes you're left with a big burden if you can't repurpose many of these things. So they know this. All you had to do, once again, is to figure out a way to get a pool of the athletes that you probably would need to rely on if you pick up injuries. And injuries are standard format. Athletes come great, stuff happens. You don't want those athletes to be too far away. So just somebody figure it out and say, hey, what's the backup plan here? We don't have enough people. They're not being allowed in the village. I said it the other night. Get the crop of athletes that you need. Tell them you might feel like a second-class Olympian here. It's not our doing. It's the way the IOC and the local organizers in Paris are structuring the games. But you might be important to our team. So we're gonna get a hotel, a Airbnb. I even said it the last time. You could have explored opportunities for homestays if you wanted to. You didn't have to go that direction, but figure it out. And then just have them there, make them come to the different training stuff, and just have them part of the team, making them feel like you are on standby if needed. That never happened. And who decided to foot the bill for themselves and then maybe potentially get reimbursed? Those things spell amateurism. So you have one guy over there is like, I'm going to pay and hang out in Paris just in case you need me. Somebody else is going to look at their pocket and like, it's not cheap to go to Paris. It's probably going to cost you a few grand. And if you're going to fly business class, it's going to be even more. And where you're going to stay, that kind of stuff is not something you want the athletes who you may need to rely on to be considering. So I think there was a significant problem there, an administrative failure to come together and just pack them someplace. For all I care, you could have packed them on a train somewhere else. They don't have to be in the heart of Paris. There's no space really in Paris, if you know. But it could be somewhere near in Saint Denis there, not too far. Train ride. But so to the question about what they'll do, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if the Jamaican women can come out of that heat. Okay, how are you doing? All in the game. I'm getting back to some of these comments here. I think All in Game is responding. It was a great mixed relay final, incredible anchor from Femke. So to our teammates who took the race to the United States, for sure. Yeah, what will happen in the relays? In any case, it would be Alana Reed, Tia, Thomas. I love it. I mean, but that's a stretch too to ask her to run in the heats, because there's 200 meters going on, and Kemba, yeah, it is. So I don't know. Yeah. All in the game, Jamaica's 4x1 and 4x4 is looking shaky. The exception of Price in the 4x4. Don't think the rest of the team can go toe-to-toe with USA, Netherlands, or GB. I agree with that. I think it's going to be a struggle. It may require a Rochelle Clayton run for sure. Maybe even 2 women off the 400-meter hurdles. I don't know. It's not looking good at right now. The Dutch will be great. They have good runners. Lika Klava will run a fabulous leg regardless. She's strong enough. They don't have. They'll be fine. GB, I think they have a formidable team to put up some stuff. You look at the likes of the women that they can bring in, and the USA is just gonna win this easily. I think so. It's gonna take some hard work and to even try to get on the medal podium there. And so it's not looking like a great Olympics yet, and I don't know what will happen there. Yeah. We'll look at the semifinal. I'll ask them to put that up whenever it's there. Will Tia run the 4x4? Is she? Well, Talu, sorry. I don't know what will happen to Marie-Georges Talu. She didn't show up this morning for the 200 meters. Clearly, she got injured last night. Something wasn't right. So it's tough. Robert is saying, do you think Akira Nugent will run on the 4x1? I mean, she can, but that only looks like a final run to me. Yeah. So I don't know. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's no semis. There's the repechage. Thank you for saying that. Tomorrow everybody gets to go back and you'll see it. Yeah. Thank all in the game. We gotta upgrade him to moderator status right now. Rosen saying, ask Bruce. Oops, acts like he knows everything. Okay. All right. I guess he's talking about Bruce James. I don't know. Let's see. The times the ladies were setting down during the early session, our results we are now seeing, our senior national shouldn't be clocking 11 ones and twos in April. Interesting. And Rosen is saying, I got to tell you, only medals will come from the field events. I think there's a strong possibility that we'll get. And then obviously shout out last night again to Ricketts, to Tia Lafon, to yeah, even Lyndon Victor, shout out to them, big time stepping up there. And obviously shout out to Rajendra Campbell there. Back to that, I suspect there's a strong possibility that Jamaican women could do something in the 100-meter hurdles and getting on a podium. That is the hardest race to call in all of track and field. There's so many women that can win it. I don't even know what to say, but there's experience there. There's youth there. Obviously, there's Danielle Williams there, getting to her first Olympics, the 2-time world champion. That is tough. That is the toughest race to call. That's the toughest race in track and field. I do think that if Rochelle Clayton runs a blinder, she should be able to compete heavily for a bronze medal in the 400-meter hurdles. But it's not straightforward, right? Like, it's not one of those things. Yeah. And all in the game, it says it depends on how serious the injury is. Ivory Coast needs her to run to have any chance of even making the final. That's true. Ivory Coast isn't. Yeah, they're not deep. The fact that Muriel is still around suggests that that's a problem. DMV, you said you heard the backup sprinter for Jamaica 4x1 is not there. They left her at home. Oh, you mean, I think Kemba should be there now, but the way in which they worked it out is not is not the way you want. And I believe she was already in Europe anyway, in Spain, so that made it a bit easier for her to arrive. Penny saying Brianna Williams should have been included. I don't disagree with that either. I think, as I said before, it would have been prudent to just have a crop of people. You should have had the foresight from the moment. Here's how I would think this would work. The moment you found out that, and this is not yesterday, it's not 2 months, it's over a year. They know this now. The moment they had this meeting and they're like, okay, planning for the Olympics. Oh, we don't have 6 in a relay pool. They know that. It's popular. They made a decision on that. Well, what eventualities could come out of this? Well, how should we figure this out? You know, somebody with a bright idea should say, well, could have injuries, we could have all sort of stuff. Somebody could get be asked to leave the Olympics because they fail a drug test. There's all these things. Immediately, like, we need a room in Paris. We need some place to put some people. That's what you got to do. And then immediately somebody should be on that. Let's book something way in advance. Way in advance. Because you can't find places. I have a good friend, a colleague of mine that's at the Olympics right now. And she had an apartment. She's been going to Paris, France every year, and she's doing a interesting book on writing an interesting book on the Olympics. Hopefully, I can bring her on the channel at some point. And I think she booked her accommodations for the Paris Olympics in that Airbnb for 2 years prior, because you can't get anything for cheap. So you have to figure this out. It's not that difficult. But whenever they do the review on this, it will ultimately come down to who thinks they should pay for it and not, and all of that stuff. And it's crazy. Yeah, All in the Game is confirming that. Yeah. And Clark is saying, if the French can't deal with the Olympics, they shouldn't have staged the games. All athletes should be staying in the village. It's a very interesting point you're making. We're increasingly getting to a world where people don't want to host these big games. It's not easy. It's like a 2-week game thing. You need the capacity to do it. It's tough. I've said it before. We can talk about it too. There are events. IOC at some point, the World Athletics have to fight them to. They didn't want to include some events sometimes because they're like, "Oh, the calendar's too packed." I don't know. I mean, Paris. In the end, to be honest with you, unless you're going to be one of those oil-rich nations who want to rise up and showcase that you're capable of spending money loosely, the Olympics may only end up going and rotating in some places. Some people have called for the Olympics to only be in certain places as a mechanism to save the environment or to not spend a lot more money. But what would that means? It's going to end up in only a few places like Australia, the United States. They back to back. There are only few nation states in the world that could potentially put on something all the time without having to even do any kind of major infrastructure. Because it's not only that, is the amount of people descending on there. Can that infrastructure hold the capacity of the millions of people that will come? It's not easy. The Olympics has become so large, and it's almost foolish to spend money on it if you are a country or a city, trying to do this. The value of it is not even, you're not going to get it back. So there's been different ways of trying to do it. Look at it, and it's been what, a little bit less than 10 years since Montreal just paid for the stadium they built it for the 1976 Olympics. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know how you get around that, to be honest with you. And I think they have two forms of villages. When I saw the village, I was like, this is super small. This is not going to work. I mean, they built some stuff. They built some apartments there, and they're repurposing some areas there in Saint Denis, and those buildings will be used for other things. But I don't know. Melly said, Elaine Thompson isn't training. I know she's injured, but she hasn't been training these days. Yeah, she wouldn't have been on consideration. I don't think she when you saw her being carried off in New York, it was done. Hopefully Elaine will get back to full fitness. I don't know. Passport Shotgun is saying a lot of Jamaica flags. Thanks. We got over 600 and something people on the live, only 90 likes. Do me a favor and like the video. Thank you. Where am I here? Lisa is Lisira. They're saying at least two backup for each sprint race. Yeah, I mean, it's something you could work out. You could have probably get sponsors on board for that too. I don't know. It's yeah. All in the game with Shericka out. Who's now your 200-meter podium? uh Gabby, Mackenzie Long, Julian. Probably have to reevaluate. Yeah, I have to look again. I like Mackenzie. I think if she can get things right, obviously a long collegiate season for her, winning the double there. But she has something to run for too. That's even bigger than that, and I think she's channeling it into her performances. You know, she lost her mom too. Brittany, can Brittany do something? Brittany finding favor. What, 5 years on since the last time we saw her? Yeah, I don't know. I am not optimistic that Lene will do what we would expect her to kick on and do. Yeah, I have to think more about it. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with you there. DMV Bay says they knew Elaine, Bree, Shelly, and Shericka were all either unavailable or carrying needles, and yet JA underprepared for this trip. Unforgivable and shows the lack of preparation and foresight. Yeah. The countries and sponsors don't want to pay the extra money, Willie Scott is saying. Uh, this is saying that's true. I'm on record. I have a different perspective when you think about the intervention of government in sport, especially if you're not a super rich nation. But I don't think, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating. For all the success Jamaica has had over the years, or the good success when you think about the peak in the last decade or so or more, I'm not sure they extracted enough wealth out of that in terms of from an administrative perspective in order to build on that and just have much more development for the sport and a lot of cash on hand. I don't think they had the foresight or the management of this, right? And it's not like you're back, USA Track has a lot of money backed by Nike all day, every day. Nike knows what it does. Nike also has to spend interesting because they don't really sponsor Olympics. So they basically will do innovative stuff to also dominate the marketplace. I don't, yeah, it's one of those things. The J is not being managing things properly then. Okay. So when it comes to track and field, the J3As are the ones in charge of it in the organization. But when in an Olympic year, they don't spend the money. The money is supposed to come from the Jamaica Olympic Association, and that's where your problem is. That both of those two groups aren't on the same level, and then you have also other people. I also think there is this idea of Jamaica and track and field being the dominant sport at the Olympics, and they wanting more, say, coaches wanting more resources and so on, and maybe rightly so. And who wants to pay for stuff and who gets to decide. So I don't think the JOA intervenes in the training camp, but they probably want to see how it's paid for, and they may want to intervene differently. It's one of those things that happen, right? So you could fully put the blame if it was a world championship year on the J3As, but I think there's some bigger issues there, and we can't really think through it. Where am I now? I don't even know where am I on the comments section. Michael is saying, "Do you think the enhanced games be a thing?" I think that's nonsense. I just don't. Then how are you going to manage the who's taking what? What you're going to reveal everything? Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere. Seems like poor planning due to penny pinching. They knew all of these possibilities. David is saying, "Yeah, I think so." World Athletics confirmed that the 2025 championships will have the usage of 9 lanes in the finals. Why does the Olympics only use 8 lanes? They couldn't convince them to do it. I like the 9 lane stuff. As we've said before, in future you will see 10 lane tracks at all the major events. I think that's might be what they may make you go with a 9 lane track for sure, but more and more you might see 10 lane tracks. I like the 9 lane stuff. You can eliminate some of this fastest loser stuff and just automatically go with top 3 and you get through. That might be an interesting thing. We'll see. Rockhill, are you one of those people who takes Frano word as gospel? Not really. I mean, you can't understand what Frano says half the time. You know, he tells you in parts. Yeah, he, he, you know, he says he doesn't like the media, but he does say stuff in the media a lot too. I think you have to go beyond these things, right? Like, I mean, you have to take what he says with a grain of salt sometimes. He never likes the administration of how things are run generally, so he'll say stuff, but that's a different thing. Yeah. What is the purpose of Jamaica having a huge coaching staff for the Olympics when most athletes have their individual coaches? That's a good question. You don't really need for some events they need their individual coaches, and it depends on the level you are, right? So the top athletes will always have their individual coaches there. It's also accreditation is the issue too. So you just can't everybody can just bring their coach to the Olympics. Yeah, because then you'll have tons of people there. Fortunately for some coaches, they can get a lot of accreditation from different uh nation states. So if you're coach Florel, should be on top of the world tonight, obviously last night. He can get accreditation from like how many countries? He's coaching athletes in Great Britain, he's coaching athletes in Jamaica, he's coaching athletes St. Louis, all over the place. So that's not an issue. If your coach isn't like a big time coach or has multiple athletes at the Olympics where you can leaning on another accreditation, it can be an interesting thing. So that's the thing. I think field eventers really like their coaches a lot because there's always these tinkering stuff that goes on. I don't know how much you need, and the more experienced you are, you're probably fine. I don't know. People like it; they like the access. I suspect if you are a country coach, you're going to need stuff on like relay stuff. Usually, that's where those things come into play the most. Because oftentimes an athlete doesn't want to listen to somebody else who might say, hey, there's something wrong with your start, or here's what you should do. Because you don't listen to those people half the year, most of the year. You don't even know who those people are, right? So, and then a lot of coaches now. I mean, look, it's most of the time it's just feeling good, encouragement. You can see stuff now on replay really quickly. You can probably get access to the athlete and talk to them on phone or message. So it just depends on the kind of learning development that an athletes have with the coach. But at that point, you I think field events is probably the best. Yeah. I will get to some more of the comments. Where are you? Yes, of course they can get sponsorship to help with this cost of accommodating backup. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Sandy, why didn't they take some younger athletes to get experience and leave the lame? I don't know that. Yeah, you can't just. There's space issues to bring young talent. I don't know. They don't have they don't have the money, right? The countries with the big money are USA, Great Britain. The French are pouring a lot of money. They also don't have any problem. Some of these kids can stay at home and still be there. China has a lot of money. It's different, it's different. Brianna, listen, thanks for coming in from Gambia. Hopefully your athlete can advance further in the 200 meters. The Brianna Liston shut down the season. Didn't come to the Jamaica National Championship. She had a bunch of niggles throughout the NCAA season. If you remember, Coach Schaefer did say that he was gearing her up for the Olympics. So for them to make the call to shut it down suggests that they didn't think it would be worth it, given her future. She's very young. You don't want to ruin it, especially if whatever she's struggling with could potentially damage her. I don't know. We'll have to go back and see what he says there, but I think Brianna will be fine over time. Uh, yeah. Let's see. Do you know if the sprint is recording the Olympics? It would be good to show both of the Jamaicans retiring. I think they're there. I think there's some cameras there earlier in that shows up, but I don't know the full details, to be honest with you. Yeah, yeah. Miller is saying relay coaches for the team. Uh, did I miss something up there? Sprint is going to be interested if both Shakari and Noah lose. It's one of those things. Yeah. Well, when you change the if to when. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens tonight. Tonight is going to be a bank stuff. We'll be back, obviously, later to do a watch along while it's in progress. So if you're watching at home and you want to just have instant chat about it, this is the place to be. I'll be back later on to watch along. Kurup is saying Caribbean athletes have it hard. Uh, it is hard, yeah. You're also saying, yeah, look, you have to take sports. You know why sports is great? Because sometimes you dominate for a long time, and then other times you have to sit there and watch, right? Like, I'm a Manchester United fan since like 1994. I don't know what it felt like not to be always winning. It's hard. The hardest sport that I follow is West Indies cricket. I remember as a child getting up early, when I used to live in Jamaica, my dad and I would listen to cricket in India and Australia on the radio before everything started to come on television in the 90s. You think that is hard? You think, so what we just experience here is nothing. If you are a big fan of Jamaica, it's just one of those days. You know, it, it doesn't spell disaster in terms of long-term disaster when you look at where the kind of women that are there. It doesn't automatically also mean that they'll come back next year and win everything and then win in all the way up until you get to the games in Los Angeles. But I wouldn't worry yet, So yeah, but disappointment is there, Yeah. You're like, you have to make the team. Young kids can go to the World Championships. Yeah, no, I mean, they don't take young kids to the World Championships until they make the team. Look, we have to shout out Tia Clayton. She's 19. She made the final. She won her semifinal, or she looked good in the semifinal, and her time will come. I think she's ahead of schedule. The Clayton twins are like swimmers on the track. They're not. The form isn't right yet, and it will take time for Francis to iron that out. But they'll be fine. Alana Reid should be big time at some point. I don't know. She may be the most talented out of the lot. Who knows? Brianna Liston. I think Brianna Williams, we should not sleep on her. It's not been hard to transition from a young athlete. She left Atto, she came to Jamaica. That didn't work out. Now she has John Smith. Only been at John Smith for a little bit. If she enjoys life there, I think John will have her as a world beater. I don't know how far that will look. If not a world beater, he'll definitely maximize her potential. John is one of the greatest coaches you'll ever see. He has nobody else. Talu's old. So if she becomes the primary focus for John, yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Truth, what's up, Truth? The Olympics on the women's side is the easiest to win a medal. uh, Corrupt says no one can beat Alfred. You mean in the 200? Or I think Gabby still could probably starts favorites there, but we'll see. I mean, but Julian is on top of the world right now for sure. What's the rumored reason for Shericka retiring? Is there something about Shericka retiring? I don't understand. You cannot always be winning. Even the Great Bowl lost some time. Yeah, cycles have to occur. That's one of those things, Corrupt says stop the rumors. Darian, I don't know. I mean, like until you lose, right? It's one of those things. No one is like if you wanted to be on that Olympic team, you should have beaten Shericka Jackson and Fraser Price. You didn't, so you can't. It's not like they picked them based on favoritism. They earned the spot. You can earn the spot and not deliver. Look at Freddie Crittenden this morning. He earned a spot on the U.S. national team, and he was jogging in the first round of the 110-meter hurdles. He's into the repechage round because that's how it is. But is he going to show up for that? I thought I saw him talking to Lewis Johnson, but I didn't hear what he had to say. If how he earned the spot. It wasn't a freebie. So that's how I think about it. Yeah. Pepe's room is saying it's not about winning or losing. They are pulling out. Imagine if Shakari pulled out last minute. Uh, you're laughing here. Alfred is a 60-meter champion now, 100-meter champion with the 200 being her best event and not yet in her prime. The 200, I don't know. I don't think Julian even likes the 200, but we'll see. Uh, uh, Lots of comments going back and forth in the room there to each other. We're getting one here. Gabby will win the 200. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm on the live for almost an hour. Thank you, everybody. We didn't even get to talk about half of these events here. Long jump wasn't looking good this morning. I don't know what was happening. Obviously, Tentaglu qualified with the big Q. You had to have an automatic qualification of 8 meters 15 to get in. Kira McLeod made it, only jumping 790. I'm not quite sure what was happening there. The winds were in all different directions this morning. The series didn't really look good. McLeod only had 2 legal jumps. Tentaglu was a one and done guy. As I said, I don't think anybody's beating Tentaglu. He always finds a way to show up. I like the Italian guy too. I had him early as a potential jumper there. But it's interesting to see that a bunch of guys not even jumping 8 meters and getting into the final. I don't know what will happen. Group B was also only one guy hitting the automatic qualifier and everybody else going in on a small queue. Tajay Gale didn't make it, only getting a best of 778. Wayne Pinnock made it through. So the long jump qualification this morning looked really, really suspect. I don't know. I would love to hear what the athletes have to say. It kind of remind me of how the high jump didn't go off as well. 110-meter hurdles was really interesting as well. I think Grant Holloway, I don't know what he was on, but running 13:01 in the opening round is just, again, one of his continuation of how great a form he was. Rashid Broadbell could have crashed out in that same race. I think he regained his composure and qualified. Sasha Zoya, a lot is riding on the kid there at home. I like him. He's, former world junior champion there. Both of them qualifying, but everybody got a chance to get back in the repechage round rather. And the interesting heat for me was the one that featured Hansa Parchment and Daniel Roberts and the Barbadian and the kid from China. I mean, guys from second to fifth going 13:43, and they all picking up some of these small cues, including Hansa Parchment, so he doesn't have to run again. Only separating by really some small thousands of a second there. So it was a blanket finish at the end, and it was hard to even figure out the places. So I mean, yeah, nothing. Orlando Bennett too from Jamaica looked unscathed. I like the kid from Senegal; he looked okay, but Crittenden is the biggest casualty, I would say, of the morning. But they all get he gets a chance to come back. I'm not sure if he will come back and get in, but we'll have to see. But it was an interesting morning for the qualification there for the 110-meter hurdles. Where am I on the comment section? I'll look at some more comments. I think we probably have to star some of these if I can even know where we are. Let's see. Let me go from the bottom. Resilient is saying blessed morning. Thanks for coming on. Truth is saying when Elaine said she was injured, most beat her like a drum. Even saying Frano would have fixed her injury. Now look what Frano would do to fix Jackson. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I wish them all the best to come back. I guess there's what is going on in the chat now? Are people betting money? I can't keep up with you guys. All in the game. Ten Tuglu is just a class act. Big fan of Furlan and the kid too. I am too. I think he has a lot of talent. I just don't know what we'll get to go. What we'll get to see. Hold on, Sabit, how are you doing? Freddie said he decided to take the first round easy because he didn't feel right and decided to use repechage. Okay, that's good because I didn't get to hear this interview because I had to do something else. So, well, okay. That's interesting. To run an extra race for no reason is also one of those things. But if you think if you felt tight, then okay. Joy is saying Alfred for the 200 meters. Where am I? Robert is also saying what's going on with Parchment. Don't know. I mean, Parchment looks almost like Parchment. He never starts the race well enough, and his second half is much better. It was looking across the Jamaican National Championship. I don't know. I mean, also Parchment isn't young either. He's been around. I think he'll be fine. He needs to definitely get something. I don't know if anybody's stopping Grant. Let's be honest here. I mean, the only way you stop Grant Holloway is to be with him. You have to be near him, maybe at hurdle number 8, and he ties up. But I just can't see it. So we'll see. Miller is saying he needed to run the next round. His body needs to recover from injury. Is this for Crittenden? Okay. Yeah, there's all of these things here. People talking about whether Alfred will win the 200, Gabby will win, or it's not for Alfred. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. So that's some of the stuff we saw there. There's all the long jump qualifying. The hammer was looking decent too. Happy that Wadowski made it through as well. But all the principles are there. I think the U.S. athlete Cameron Rogers from Canada was there as well. I don't know how much you're into the hammer. I didn't get to see the steepest chase, so I just couldn't wake up that early. But I just looked at the results, so I can't even really comment on the women's steepest chase, to be honest with you, in terms of how people looked. But it looked, Chematai made it through, which is, she's there. A lot of, yeah, I'm just now looking at it. It looks like most of the people I anticipated should be there. Yavi did too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the Ethiopian Almeyu too, probably one of the big ones there. So what happened to Jacqueline? Interesting there. I need to probably go watch those races to get a sense. So Kip Koich didn't make it through. That's interesting there. And let's see, Beatrice is there. So once Beatrice, skip coach, is there for sure, she's gonna. I think she might win it all for sure. Yeah. So I'll look up on that at another time. All right, guys. It's been really my pleasure again. I can see morning again. Let me get some more of your comments. Corp just saying McLean bet on Alfred and win some money, and we will come back later to see who's right on the bet. Yeah. So again, any last minute changes for your predictions for the evening session when it comes to the men's 100 meters? We'll see. But I will be back on the channel to do a watch along for that. Thank you all for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Uh, Truth is saying this is the weakest female sprint Olympics in history. Why are you saying that? I don't know. I don't know about that. Uh, it's just pretty good time. 10-7 is not a slouch, right? I mean, there are some good quality athletes there. I'm not quite sure about that at all, to be honest with you. Who won the 100-meter yesterday? Julian Alfred won the 100 meters yesterday, Theresa. And she was fabulous doing it. Conditions weren't great. And yeah, and St. Lucia made history, so they should stand up. And I'm still waiting on one of the people from St. Lucia to send me a bottle of the reserve. The CSM saying who want it most will win the men's 100 meters. Interesting. And Monte saying I expect Curly to surprise. I wouldn't be upset. Not upset rather. I wouldn't be shocked rather if that happened. Curly, he could deliver something. He has to execute right, and if he execute right, he might be in the mix. But it's not as straightforward that he might make the final either. It's going to be tough there. So, but Fred having a late good part of the season after the meltdown in New York, and we'll see. Let's see. People's room is saying they are trying to injure Kishane since Big Mouth Chanel revealed his injury prone. Well, I don't know if she revealed anything that people didn't know, right? He only ran one race last year at the Jamaica Championships. He came back at the end of the season, and he looks fabulous so far. So we'll see. I don't know who's trying to injure him, to be honest with you. I think he'll be fine as long as he executes well, and he should win it all. Carol FB says, I'm rooting for all the Caribbean athletes. Yeah, we'll see. There's not a lot of them in the men's one. Well, I guess you mean overall. Okay, yeah, okay. And thanks again for saying that. Julian's 1072 in the rain is joint all time, 8 all time ever. Yeah, so it's not a slouch. And the times have improved. I don't want to always look at times that won previous Olympic Games if you go back to the 90s and beyond, because there's different circumstances and so on. But even silver place time is a great time. I mean, that would have won a lot of Olympics too, right, in previous years. So it's not a big deal. Yeah. Truth is saying the only thing that can prevent Kishane from goal is a foul start or injury. I probably agree with that. Omaniala, Letsili Tobogo, and Seville can run the right race at the right time and upset the apple cart. No, I agree with you, Willie. I think I want to really see what kind of shape Oblique is in. Can he hit 2 good races back to back? Because on one of my previews, I think if he's in great shape, I think it could be a Jamaica 1-2 if he does it the right way. And maybe Noah Elias can pop in, but he could also come second. He may also not make the final. It's just one of those things. I want to see what Omanyala can do too. He hasn't really replicated the big time runs you see in Kenya here. He looks smooth in the opening round, good turnover. Akini Simbini, can he do something, or is it a bridge too far? Missed out before, but I don't know. And I think there's something in the tank for Letsili. Some people think it's not straightforward with Letsili, like he's off, but I think he has something there. He just haven't executed the last part of the race, but if he does it, we'll see. You're saying Thompson not making the men's final. Why are you saying that? On the account of how? And I don't know who you agree with here. Alfred was very much appreciative of our time spent at St. Catherine in Jamaica. Yeah, I did see the clip on that. I thought she was happy about that too. Yeah, I guess Jamaicans take the connection everywhere. All in the game, the men's 100 semis are going to be brutal, especially semifinal number 2. Yeah, we can put that up real quickly since we're back on it. If we can put up a semifinal again in a second. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I forgot Kung Fu Kenny could also do something. The truth is saying that he's saying Kishen Gold, Oblique Silver, and Kung Fu Kenny for the bronze. A lot of people are sleeping on Kung Fu Kenny. Yeah, again, this is not easy. We have Seville, you have Noah Lyles, you got Louis Hincliffe there. You got two guys from University of Houston there. Carl Lewis has a hand in them. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough, It's going to be tough. It can favor Ashe do something. He's outside on the left there. Can he run a blind up? You never know. I think all of these guys have to run really, really hard to ensure that you get into the final. Yeah. This is only the first two go through. Let's see the other lineup real quickly. And yeah. And we'll get to Heat 2. That is going to be tough. Heat 2, Akeem Blake, Letsili Tobogo, Kenny Bednarak, Marcel Jacobs. That's outrageous there. The Olympic champion, we're not saying much about him yet, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah, and then the final heat will feature Kishane Thompson. I expect him to go through automatically. But it's not easy to. Yeah, Fred Curley, Abamanyala. Maybe Zarnell Hughes is getting back into shape. Who knows? I don't know. I think he had an injury earlier this year, so we have to see what his capability is. I wouldn't sleep on Benjamin as well, but I don't know, it might be a bridge too far for him. But if he pulls up a big race, on the outside, you never know, right? It might be too much for Andre DeGrasse this time, and maybe he has to look at the 200 meters. Carl is saying yes, Mbini was looking good. Carl says Kenny not winning anything. And Cheryl is saying the US men will sweep. So you're saying it's going to be no. In what order is the US men sweeping these things? Yeah. And Akeem to come good in the semifinals. Yeah. He has to run a blinder, I think. Yeah. So we'll see. No, actually, Jacobs have gone sub 10 twice this year. I think he's done 9. Has he done 992 and 995? I believe. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, he said no sub 10s for Jacobs this year is why no one is calling. No, I think he's gone sub 10s twice. I believe this year, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, we will see. I'll be back live on the channel later on to do a watch along. So if you wanna watch it on your setup and also chat while we're doing it, I'll be there for the evening session, and then we'll do a wrap up in the evening. Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Don't know yet. They'll have Kemba. They'll have a few other people, and we'll see what they'll do. They'll have to set it up. They'll probably have to rely on some people running the 200 meters too. All right. They'll figure it out. All right, guys. It's been my pleasure. Good to have you in the morning session, and we'll talk later on. Bye-bye.